University of Pretoria is taking the lead in ensuring the wild cheetah's survival. The animal will be reintroduced into India to increase the population of free-roaming cheetahs. The global cheetah population is on a decline. Let's discuss this with Professor Adrian Tordiffe from the University of Pretoria's Faculty of Veterinary Sciences. Professor, thank you so much for your time tonight. Before we get into this specific project, tell us a little bit more about the history of the cheetah in India.
So the cheetahs have existed in Asia for many years, for centuries, and they were used in hunting for small antelope, deer, and so on. And they were actually, many of them were actually used as hunting animals, but they were also free-ranging. After colonialization in India, hunting primarily, and then depletion of their prey species were the main reasons why they became extinct in about the late 1940s, early 1950s. And yeah, so they haven't existed there for that period of time. The only Asiatic cheetah that we still have left is currently now in Iran. There are only about between 12 and 20 individuals left. So the global population of cheetahs, the only stronghold is in Southern Africa at the moment, and that's the African cheetah. But they're very closely related. And you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference. The Asiatic cheetah may be slightly smaller, slightly more fur on its body, but other than that, they're essentially ecologically identical in terms of the function that they perform in the ecosystem.
So tell us a little bit more about this project to reintroduce the cheetah to India. So,
I mean, this has been on the dream of many individuals that I've spoken to in India, some of them going back 50 years. So it's been talked about, it's been planned. There have been many problems with opposition to the project, but I think in the last few years it's really gained momentum. And so the Indian Wildlife Institute and the National Tiger Conservation Authority approached us at the University of Pretoria. We had been doing some training with some of the wildlife veterinarians, and that was the point of contact. And they basically wanted a partner in South Africa to help them with the project. Cheetahs are actually very difficult to translocate. Wild cheetahs, which is what we would want to reintroduce into India, are really problematic in that they're very easily stressed during transport, and some of them can actually die during the transport. So we needed really the expertise, and we have that at the University of Pretoria, at the veterinary faculty, to help them with this, the planning of this project. We also wanted to make sure that we weren't transmitting any diseases from the South African side over to any of the Indian carnivores, wild carnivores. And we wanted to make sure that the cheetahs, when they arrived, they wouldn't contract any diseases. So the whole disease assessment or disease risk assessment was a crucial part of the project. So we've been working with them since 2020, and yeah, finally things are gaining momentum. We already have 12 cheetahs in South Africa, currently in quarantine bomas, ready to go. One of the key targets in terms of timing was the 75th Independence, or Day of Independence, which is on the 15th of August. 75 years since India has gained independence, and so this was a fairly important day for them. They wanted to try and see if they couldn't arrange to have the cheetahs there by that date.
And what are the conditions now for the reintegration of the cheetah? Are they guaranteed survival and the kind of conservation required to make this a long-term success?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of questions. We have assessed the habitat into which we are planning to reintroduce them. In many cases, you could go there, many South Africans could go there, and I bet you wouldn't even know that you're in India. You know, it's open savanna, grassland, mixed, savanna woodland. So, you would think that you're in Africa. So the conditions are slightly different in terms of the weather, but the cheetahs are very adaptable. And in South Africa, we get them all the way from the very dry, hot western side of the country all the way to a wetter sort of eastern side of the country. We have them in the cold Karoo, so they can survive a wide range of environmental temperatures, and we don't anticipate that they're going to have any trouble doing that in India. Some of the difficulties may be that none of the Indian reserves are really fenced. We have one or two that are fenced, but they operate in a sort of open range system, so wildlife can roam freely in India, and they manage the conflict or the interaction between humans very differently to the way that we do in South Africa. Now, obviously, that means that when we put cheetahs, once we release them out of their initial bomas out into the wild, they could potentially just move off in any direction. We're going to be placing, we have already, actually yesterday, I placed the satellite collars on them. So they're carrying collars which will allow us to track their movements. And in India, they've got a team of people who are going to be basically monitoring their activities all the time. That doesn't take away the risks completely. Cheetahs interact with other big carnivores like leopards and lions and hyenas in South Africa, and they have very high leopard density in some areas in India. Those are not, we don't anticipate that'll be a big threat to the adult animals, but it certainly may be a threat to the cubs when they're born. So we're going to have to manage that risk. In terms of tigers, the areas that we're planning to do the introductions at the moment don't really have many tigers. But cheetahs have coexisted with lions as well. That's the biggest threat are lions. And lions, in terms of the prides and so on, are a far bigger threat than we anticipate tigers will ever be. And obviously, there's a history of them existing in India for thousands of years. So we don't anticipate that we won't be able to overcome some of those difficulties.
Well, thank you so much for that insight, and we hope this project is a roaring success. That was Professor Adrian Tordiffe from the University of Pretoria's Faculty of Veterinary Sciences. Right, we'll be back after a short break. Do stay with us here on South Africa Tonight.